I went to Foreign Affairs. I met the PS Korir Singoe. He could not get me anything. He said he has sent somebody to Kampala to see the embassy so that he brings the report. After that, I write him, even text on WhatsApp, he doesn't reply. Madam Miano also told me he has sent his PS to Kampala to bring some feedback from the embassy. Up to today, no feedback. The issue why we are here is mainly on the Uganda corridor. And I wish to thank you for inviting us to shed light on this particular public petition on the Kenyans that were court-martialed in Uganda, and specifically in Moroto district, which falls under Karamoja region in Uganda. Chair, first I want to give a brief history of how life is within this particular corridor or border where this issue happened. Chair, first and foremost, the Turkana people share the same language, they share the same culture and traditions with the people we have issues with, or where these particular people were court-martialed. And our relationship with the Karamoja community, who we share the same language and culture, started in 1973. There was a peace agreement that was signed in 1973, which is celebrated every year in September 21st to mark that particular event. And that 21st is World Peace Day. Since then, we have lived together without any problem. And there's no Turkana or Kenyan who has been court-martialed since then, except this particular case. And I wish to state that on 21st March 2022, 2 UPDF soldiers, that is the soldiers, and 3 Uganda geologists, government geologists, were actually ambushed and killed at a place called Kobebe. Kobebe is a place that Turkana and the Karamoja, specifically the Madeniko. In that particular corridor, we have the Karamoja, which is a general name for the people living there, but we have specific tribes within that corridor. We have the Tepes, we have the Madeniko, we have the Bokora, we have the Jie, we have the Dodos, we have the Pian, and all those. But the immediate people we are bordering with are the Madeniko. So this particular place where these people were killed, it is the Turkanas and the Madeniko who are living in this particular place when this incident happened. The geologists were actually carrying out an exploration survey on the minerals present in that particular region, and the 2 UPDF were escorting this particular 3 geologists. So following this incident, the UPDF and the Uganda police launched a joint operation between 24th and 26th of March 2022 to track down the culprits. Unfortunately, in a place called Naput on 26th, 8 Turkanas were rounded up. Where the incident happened is almost 60 kilometers from where the 8 were rounded up and arrested. These people were taken to Moroto 3rd Division headquarters for interrogation. In Moroto 3rd Division area, these people were actually detained, they were tortured, and they were told to confess if they possess any firearms. Some of them confessed their firearms, but in Kenya, back in Kenya, not in Uganda. They were told, unless you produce those firearms, is when we will release you. So some of them had to send a message back home that if you can be able to get a firearm, they will be released. That was the message from the UPDF headquarters, that bring their firearm, then we release you. Little did they know that if you bring a firearm, that becomes an evidence, and therefore liable for prosecution. Actually, I think two of them brought two firearms from Kenya, a place called Lokriama, to Moroto, and then they were handed to UPDF. So that was an evidence already. So on 29th March 2022, UPDF, through a spokesman, the spokesman released a statement accusing the Turkana of that particular killing. Yeah, they say the Turkana are the ones who are responsible for the killing, without considering that the Turkanas and the Madeniko were living in that particular place together. On 13th April 2022, the 8 Turkanas were court-martialed and sentenced for 8 years for unlawful possession of firearms. And when they were sentenced, there was no legal representation. Yeah. So that was on 13. The same 13, another Turkana person was arrested that same day in a place called Kotido. Kotido is a district now bordering him. One person was arrested, and it was alleged that this person was arrested with a firearm. That guy was brought to Moroto, and on 31st January 2023, he was sentenced for 18 years imprisonment. Same on court martial. So that made the number from 8 to 9. That was in 2022. This was followed by multiple arrests, multiple threats, multiple torture, and all that. In January this year, 2023, following those arrests, those tortures, I wrote a letter. I had to seek an appointment with the State House, which we were granted. We went and saw the president, and we explained what was happening in Uganda. The president told me and him to write a written narrative of what is happening there. So on 21st, in the documents, I don't know whether you have those documents. On 31st of January, we wrote that particular narrative, which we sent to the president. On 17th of February, which was a Friday, we were called to State House, the CS for East Africa and ASAL areas.
Sorry, Mheshimiwa,
yes.
The document you referred to, the one you wrote to State.
Yes.
The one dated 31st. Yeah.
31st. Yes, the one said the untold story. Yes. So on 17th of February 2023, following that letter, we were called to State House in the presence of the CS for East Africa, Honorable CS Rebecca, PS for Interior, Raymond Omolo, Deputy Chief of Staff, Honorable Josephat Colin Anok, and we met there. And the discussion was that the president had called his counterpart in Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, and that we were to meet in Moroto with another team coming from Kampala. We converged at Moroto where the incident happened. So on the 20th, which was a Monday, we flew from here to Moroto. And we met the Minister for Security from the other side, and the security advisor, somebody by the name Salim Saleh. Salim Saleh is, I think, the brother to the president himself. So we met them in Moroto, and the discussion was on the release of the 9 court-martialed Kenyans in Uganda, and thereafter, now to start engaging on peaceful coexistence. When we met there, we discussed, and a communique was arrived by the 2 ministers, together with us who accompanied them. That communique, if you can check in your documents, is the communique by the 2 party states.
The one dated 20th February.
20th February.
Okay.
Yes, that's the communique. Those were some of the things that were agreed after that particular meeting. And then we were given 168 hours to get feedback on whether these 9 convicts were to be released or not. The 168 hours from 20th of February up to today, we have not gotten that communication. Instead, we got further terrible communication from the president of Uganda. One was a directive, then followed by the executive order number 3 of 2023, sorry. So after that meeting, that communique followed, and then the president of Uganda communicated in another letter, which he was communicating to Salim Saleh, who was now taking charge of this particular issue. Letter dated 3rd March. Actually, that letter was communicated, and the letter was saying we need to have what we call resource sharing agreement between the Kenyans along that corridor and the Ugandans on that corridor. And His Excellency Yoweri Museveni outlined things, strategies on which he wants to take development to Karamoja region. And therefore, the Kenya side was also supposed to contribute in that sharing agreement what we were to do on our side. Unfortunately, that task was given to the county government of Turkana by the CS, Rebecca, that they lead the team, and then they will forward that particular draft before it is signed, because she was the one to sign with their counterpart from the other side. So the Turkana County actually led in the drafting of the team together with their counterpart from Uganda. But unfortunately, we did not, because I was part of that group that was drafting the resource sharing agreement. We did not got any feedback from the national government in terms of what the national government in that agreement, what the national government intends to do along the Turkana border to Uganda border. Because Uganda was saying they are piping water from Lake Kyoga to Karamoja, they are doing ranching, they are putting schools, they are putting health centers along the border and one border point and all that, and even repairing roads. But the Kenya part, especially from the national part, was not there. We tried to reach out to the minister, reach to the PS who was there, tried to reach to Nanoko himself. We could not get any feedback. So that particular resource sharing agreement was actually overtaken by the executive order number 3 of 2023. Because we had not yet gotten the feedback, but by then, the executive order came. And the executive order was very strong. That one, the Turkana should surrender the people who killed the 3 geologists.
This is executive order from the government of Uganda.
Of Uganda.
From the president.
And that executive order is the last document, last big document. So the executive order was required the Turkana to produce the people who killed the geologists and the UPDF soldiers. Number 2, compensate those particular people, the 5 people. Number 3, wait until we clear number 1 and number 2. And if we have to go back to Uganda for grass and water, we have to go there without weapons, or rather firearms. So actually, before that executive order, there was another cordon and search which happened in a place called Lomuriat. That cordon arrested 129 Kenyans who were in their kraals at night. After search, 32 of them were taken to UPDF, that division headquarters in Moroto. And those 32 are the ones who were actually court-martialed on the 11th April 2023. Yeah, on the 11th, 2023. When they were court-martialed, there were 2 accounts. Account 1 was possession of illegal firearms, which attracted 10 years imprisonment. And count 2 was possession of live ammunition, which attracted another 10 years. Both the sentences were running consecutively. So after that now is when the executive order came on the 19th of May, 2023. So that is the brief about this court-martial of the Turkana people between 2022 and 2023. Nobody raises any finger. So, and that's the reason why we have brought this petition to this particular committee, so that we can be heard and this issue be expedited a bit. So my friend my colleague will mention something, and maybe I will summarize. Thank you. Yes, the 9 Turkanas are the first who were court-martialed in 2022. The 32 were court-martialed this year in April 11th. So if you add 9 and 32, you come 41. Thank you.
The Chair, let me appreciate the legal counsel's brief to the committee. And it is very spot on for us. It makes our petition workable. In a nutshell, Chair, we are here before you and the members of this committee to plead that we be treated, our people, the Turkana of Turkana West, or Turkana County for that matter, be treated as Kenyans. And therefore Kenyan law will serve us the way it serves everybody else. Suppose the court-martialing was being done for the people of Busia, or for that matter, those border areas. Will Kenya government keep quiet with a number of 41 Kenyans arrested and prosecuted and jailed in our sister country without a word? That is the feeling we have. And what Mheshimiwa has told you is true. Why are we finding ourselves in this situation? It is because of lack of water. It is because of lack of pasture for the major mainstay, economic mainstay of the Turkana people, livestock keeping. These people generate their livelihoods by nomadism, moving from one area where they can find the water and the grass to another. That is how we have found ourselves, our people have found themselves in Uganda. Literally, Chair and members, for the last 10 years, the Turkana of Turkana West and Loima constituencies live 3/4 of the year in Uganda, because that is where they can find this water, this is where they can find the grass. Why do they live in Uganda in that manner? Because the people next to them, the neighbors, are actually our kinsmen and women. We speak the same language, just as Mheshimiwa told you. This is one group of our people. It is like having Luos of Kenya and Luos of Uganda. If there were Luyas of Kenya, there are Luyas of Uganda. Sabaots of Kenya, Sabaots of Uganda. That is the situation between the Turkana and the Karamoja of Uganda. The unfortunate situation, Chair and Member, is that there are tribal fights brought about by the struggle for these resources, and everyone wants to have their own. I mean, to have something extra. That struggle, Chair, is what has occasioned this situation. The case of the court-martialing is a law in Uganda, and what we plead here is that the National Assembly helps us to bring it to the attention of Kenya government that these Kenyans need to be treated fairly. Imagine being court-martialed without a representation, without legal representation. What will you do? You know? You're just like, someone whose hands are tied. That is what has happened to our people, the 41. In fact, the numbers that my colleague was, my colleague was telling you, I will say, there were actually more than the 41. I had 20 of them arrested. Somehow, those people we were able to talk to them, and they secured their release. This is this year and last year. In 2015, 2016, a similar situation, Chair, occurred, where the whole of Turkana County had to visit Kabong district to seek for release again of our people, another 10 of them who had been arrested and had been imprisoned. So these things have been going on, Chair. And we would put it to the committee that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs needs to be taken to task. Do they know of these happenings? Because we have officers, someone called a liaison officer in the 3rd Division stationed in Moroto, a Kenyan, I think at the level of a major. They know the occurrences that happen there every other day. Is our ambassador in Kampala aware of these situations? What is he doing about these Kenyans? Where is he or she when our people are being court-martialed? It's like we are on our own, Chair. And that is a matter of concern. The reaction time has taken all that long. Since 20th of February, when the meeting was done in Moroto, bargaining for the release of the first court-martialed 9, the communique that my colleague mentioned about, which was a communication agreed upon by the Minister for East African and Assal Areas, Madam Rebecca Miano, and their counterpart in Uganda. That communication has not given back any fruit. And then it was followed by the court-martialing of the 32. Chair, our people are suffering. And it is time this committee takes government to task to ask them to play their part as a country, okay, whose people have been arrested. And there are all these treaties that the Council mentioned about. The Transfer of Prisoners Act that he quoted, the extradition agreements between Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania. Why can't this be brought to bear in this situation? And then on matters of good neighborliness and us not having guns, like the executive order says, we are okay with that because that is the law of that land. We don't need to carry those guns. But Chair, why do you think these people are carrying guns to Uganda? It's because of the situation that obtains there. But that is a matter that can be canvassed in another way, when at least our people are back and we are able to talk as Kenyans, talking to our brothers in Uganda. This is our plea, Chair. And I pray that this committee takes it upon itself to actually seek even further information. Why not visit Turkana County and find out exactly what is happening? It is a serious matter, Chair. And even as we speak now, our people are along the corridor down. They want to go up. The executive order restrains them from going up. The military, Uganda has they have actually sent their forces along the common border. So our people cannot go up. And our animals are beginning to die. Our people lack water and all those challenges of services because our part of the land is not helpful, is not productive, is not keeping us. My constituency is 16,000 square kilometers. Those are two constituencies. Loima 9, Turkana West 16,000. Turkana North is 20,000 square kilometers, bordering Ethiopia and South Sudan. These are the type of environments that we are operating from, Chair. If this committee can pick this matter, you will go a long way to help us be entrenched as Kenyans who need to be dealt with and be served by our country effectively. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, we are really suffering along that particular corridor and other corridors. But because people maybe have not entered into such a situation where we are at the moment, that's why maybe they are a bit quiet. The situation in Uganda is really alarming. UPDF, which has been assigned duties to control conflict along that corridor, is really making the lives of our people unbearable. How? UPDF does one-sided reporting in areas where the Turkana and the Karamoja are living together. One-sided reporting in terms of what? If livestock are stolen from the Turkana, nobody reports. But if livestock are stolen from their people, that's what they report. They don't report the lives lost during skirmishes in those particular places. Like in March, we lost 4 people in Uganda, but UPDF did not report. During this cordon and search, where 32 people were arrested, 3 Kenyans, including minors, were injured. They didn't report. So one-sided report only in favor of their people and against our people is what is really killing us. Secondly, there is this bit of rounding of animals and people, and then you demand for guns. You round my livestock, and then you tell me, bring 2 guns. Whether I have it or I don't have it, I must bring it. And even before the release of those animals, the UPDF have to take some of these animals and sell and eat. So what is happening in Ghana is extortion. Extortion of the highest order. So that, Honorable Chair, why we are really suffering, or why even our people go there with the guns, position with guns. I have told you there are several tribes within Karamoja sub-tribe or sub-region. There is one particular tribe called Gie, who live in a place called Kotido district in Uganda. This is the menace of Uganda. They raid their counterparts in a place called Kabong, the Dodos. They raid the Bokora. They raid the Nuaks. They raid Madeniko. They raid the Pian. They raid the Pes. They raid Turkana. They raid almost everybody. So the moment UPDF tells you, enter Uganda without any firearm, it's just it's like going to the butchery. A goat going to the butchery alone. How can you enter a place where you know people are waiting for you without any protective? So these people, some of these people who go in there with those weapons, they go because they want to protect their livestock and their lives. That's the only reason. Otherwise, if UPDF was taking charge of security in Uganda, not even a single Turkana will walk there with a gun. People will just go with sticks, hide the animals, and when it rains this side, they come back. But because of these guys who are on that other side, it's a big problem. Honorable Chair, the other issue is about failure of UPDF to recover Turkana animals. You take my 200 heads of cattle, and then I don't recover even one. Then the next day, they take is 20 or 30, no recovery. So that puts a grudge, and then these people now are attempted to retaliate. And that's what is happening in that particular place. When we did this meeting with this Saleh, the advisor to the president of Uganda, we told all this. We told him all this.
Mheshimiwa, is it the same as Jim Huwezi?
Yes.
Signing this?
Yes.
Is the same guy?
Yes, he's Mkwezi, yes. Caleb Salim Saleh, the guy who was addressed this letter of 3rd March. Yes, that's the brother to Museveni. So, this Kotido, when your animals go there, you will never trace. Even if they cordon all the animals in Kotido, you will not trace yours. Meaning there is a cartel that lives in Kotido. When the animals are taken, they are put on trucks, immediately they are diverted elsewhere. So that is our big problem. So our people, after a long wait for the animals to be recovered, now some of them come back home, and then they find their own way, and then they go back and retaliate. So that is the big problem. Now, since this...
your 2 minutes are up.
Yeah, the last one. When the executive order was issued, that was in May 19th. Up to date,